The voicemail came in at 6:43 a.m. I didn't listen to it until 3 days later. Not because I didn't see it. I saw the missed call. I saw the notification. I saw her name light up my phone screen like it always had for years. Grandma Ruth. But life has a way of convincing you that there's always time later. Later to call back. Later to say sorry. Later to listen. I was rushing that morning. Late for work. Coffee spilled on my shirt. Traffic louder than my thoughts. I remember muttering, "I'll call her tonight." Tonight never came. Grandma Ruth died on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in a small white room at St. Mary's Care Home with a window that faced a parking lot and a nurse who held her hand because no one else was there. No family at her bedside. No voice she recognized. Just the hum of machines and the echo of a life that once meant everything to someone. To me. I grew up in her house. Not just stayed there, lived there. Her house was the kind that smelled like cinnamon even when nothing was baking. The kind where the floors creaked like they were clearing their throats before telling a story. The kind of house where time moved slower, like it respected her age. Every afternoon after school, I drop my backpack by the door and find her in the kitchen. She always knew it was me before I spoke. Shoes off, she'd say, not turning around. You track the whole world in on those things. She called everyone the whole world. Her hair was always pulled back in a loose bun, silver strands escaping no matter how tightly she tried to pin them. She wore the same blue cardigan even in summer because, according to her, old bones don't trust the weather. When my parents split up, no one asked where I wanted to go. They just brought me to Grandma Ruth's house and left me there with my clothes in garbage bags and a promise to visit on weekends. Weekends turned into holidays. Holidays turned into phone calls. Phone calls turned into silence. But Grandma Ruth never made me feel abandoned. She made me feel chosen. She used to sit with me on the porch every evening. Same two chairs, same routine, same silence. She'd sip her tea slowly, like it was something sacred. I'd pretend to read, but mostly I'd watch her hands wrinkled, spotted, trembling just a little, and wonder how those hands had once been young enough to rock babies, knead dough, wipe tears. People think getting old is loud, she once said. But it's actually very quiet. I didn't understand then. I thought quiet was peaceful. I didn't know quiet could mean being forgotten. The first time I left her house, I was 18. College acceptance letter. New city, big dreams. Small suitcase. She helped me pack, folding my clothes with more care than I ever had. When she handed me my jacket, she slipped something into the pocket. I found it on the bus ride out of town. A handwritten note. Call me when you get there. And even when you don't need me. I called her every day that first month. Then only on birthdays. Then I don't remember when the calls stopped feeling urgent. Life filled the space she used to occupy. Jobs, relationships, rent, noise. And Grandma Ruth slowly faded into the background, not because she mattered less, but because I assumed she'd always be there. People don't realize that's how love dies sometimes. Not with anger, but with neglect. The care home wasn't bad. That's what everyone said. She's taken care of. She's comfortable. They have nurses. But no one said she was lonely. When I finally visited, after 2 canceled plans and 1 excuse too many, she looked smaller, like the world had slowly been pressing down on her. Her room was neat to neat. No mess means no life. She smiled when she saw me, but her eyes filled up before she could stop them. Oh, she said softly, "You came. Not you're here. Not I missed you. Just you came." Like it was something she hadn't expected. I stayed for 20 minutes, checked my phone twice, left with a promise to come back soon. Soon is a word that lies. The voicemail lasted only 12 seconds. I finally listened to it after the funeral, after the flowers, after the polite condolences. after the guilt had already settled deep into my chest like a stone. Her voice was weaker than I remembered. "Hi, sweetheart. It's me. I just wanted to hear your voice. You don't have to call back tonight. I know you're busy." A pause. "I love you. Always have." Click. That was it. No goodbye. No complaint. No blame. Just love. The kind that waits even when it shouldn't. At the funeral, there were 7 people. A nurse, a social worker, 2 neighbors she hadn't seen in years, and me. I stood there staring at the closed casket, trying to remember the last time I hugged her, trying to remember the last time I told her I loved her without rushing. I couldn't. That realization hurt more than the loss itself, because grief isn't always about missing someone. Sometimes it's about realizing you failed them while they were still alive. That night, I went back to her house. The porch light was still on. I don't know who turned it on. Maybe no one ever turned it off. I sat in her old chair and listened to the silence she once warned me about. And for the first time in my life, I understood. Quiet isn't peaceful when it's empty. Quiet is where regret lives. There was a box in the attic. I found it while going through Grandma Ruth's house, deciding what to keep and what to give away. Most of the house felt untouched, like she had left in a hurry and planned to come back. The box was dusty, taped shut, and labeled in her handwriting. Old things. Inside were photographs, letters tied with a fading ribbon, and a wedding ring that was too worn to shine anymore. That's when I realized something painful. I knew how Grandma loved me, but I never really knew who she was before she became just Grandma. She was 19 when she met my grandfather. His name was Henry. Tall, quiet, the kind of man who smiled with his eyes more than his mouth. They met at a small-town dance hall in the summer of 1952. She wore a yellow dress. She had sewn herself. He spilled lemonade on it the first night. She married him anyway. Their love wasn't dramatic. No grand speeches, no poetry. It was steady. The kind of love that wakes up early, pays bills, fixes broken fences, and comes home tired but still chooses you. They had 1 son, my father. And for a while, life was simple. Not easy, but honest. Then Henry got sick. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly. The kind of sickness that creeps in, quietly, and rearranges your life without asking permission. Grandma Ruth became a caretaker before she even realized it. She learned how to measure medicine, how to lift a grown man without hurting him, how to smile even when she was exhausted. She never complained. Not once. Henry died on a rainy Thursday morning. She held his hand for hours after the machines stopped, whispering things no one else heard. She was 37 years old, widowed, with a child to raise and a world that didn't slow down. Just because hers had fallen apart, she never remarried. People asked her why. Friends, neighbors, even family. "You're still young," they'd say. "You deserve happiness." She would smile politely and change the subject. The truth was buried in one of the letters in that box. A letter Henry had written during his last hospital stay. "If I go first," he wrote, "don't spend your life waiting for me. But if you do, I'll understand." She waited, not because she had to, but because love had set its roots too deep. She raised my father alone, worked part-time, saved every penny, skipped meals so he wouldn't have to, pretended not to notice when her shoes were thin. And when my father grew up and had me, and then lost everything in a divorce he never recovered from, she opened her door again. No questions, no conditions, just love. But age is cruel in quiet ways. Friends moved away. Some passed on. Others stopped calling. Her world shrank. Rooms got quieter. Days got longer. She watched life through her windows. The care home came later. After a fall she never fully recovered from. After neighbors noticed lights staying off too long. After people decided it was for the best, she packed one suitcase, left behind a lifetime. Left behind a lifetime. At the care home, she kept a routine. Breakfast at 7, TV at noon, dinner at 5. She hated the early bedtime. It feels like practice, she once joked. Practice for disappearing. Most residents had visitors, children, grandchildren, flowers. Grandma Ruth had me, and even I came less than I should have. The nurse told me something after the funeral. She talked about you a lot, she said gently. She kept her phone charged all the time, said you might call. I asked when the last call was. The nurse hesitated. Months ago. That word crushed me. Months. I had lived entire days without thinking of her, while she measured time by silence. One of the letters in the box was never sent, addressed to me. No date. I know you're busy. It read, I don't want to be a burden. I just want you to remember that someone is always proud of you, even on days when you forget yourself. I folded the letter and cried like I hadn't since I was a child, because she was never a burden. She was my foundation, and I treated her like background noise. That night, I slept on her couch. The house felt colder without her presence warming it. I dreamed of the porch, of her sipping tea, of her turning to me and saying nothing at all, just smiling. People talk about regret like it comes all at once. It doesn't. It arrives slowly, in waves, in ordinary moments. When you reach for your phone and realize there's no one left to call.